Hey everybody, it's Jamie. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you exactly what I do during the month when I update my budget. I want to show you my process, and maybe this is something that can help you figure out how to actually budget. These are the actual practical steps that I take. Hopefully this will help you start a budget, but then actually stick to it. Let's dive in. So I typically update my budget at least twice a month, usually the weekend right after payday. In my ideal world, I would do this every single weekend for two reasons. There'd be less work I have to do when I actually sit down to do my budget if I did it every week. Therefore, it would take me less time to do it every week. By doing it every 2 weeks when I get paid, there's sometimes more thought that goes into it, and I have to remember back a little bit further to, hey, we spent $40 at Target. What the heck did we buy, and what budget category does it go in? Those are some struggles that I know I have, and maybe you have when you are doing your budget. All right, so I'm ready to sit down and update my budget. I need a few things to actually make that happen. So first off, I need my budget. So whether that's a paper and pen budget, whether it's a spreadsheet like the one I'm showing you here, you also need some sort of list of all of your transactions. So this can look a couple different ways. It could be logging into your online banking, so you can go through and look at all your transactions. It can be an app. Mint is a really popular free app where you can log all of your transactions. It does that automatically because it links to your bank account. It could be doing what I do, which is I actually have a receipt envelope that I put all of our receipts in. I used to be somebody who just let the cashier keep the receipts, but now I keep all of my receipts because this helps me go back in and see how much I spent at each store, and I never forget what I bought. Like I mentioned before, what did we buy at Target for $40? I've got the receipt, I can check it out. I actually use a combination of all these. I use my receipts, I use our online banking, logging into our Wells Fargo account, and we pay for nearly every single expense we can with a credit card. And I know this is something that if you follow Dave Ramsey at all, he highly suggests, and actually not highly suggests, he emphasizes strongly, don't use a credit card. And for a lot of years, we didn't use a credit card either. But now that we've built up our budgeting muscles, we use a credit card for all of our transactions. We use a Capital One card, and I've got an app right on my phone. Actually, today it's going to be my wife's phone. And I can go through in that app and I can look at all of our transactions, and that's a really easy way for me to see everything in one place. So you've got your budget, you've got a list of your transactions, whether that's receipts or online banking or an app. You're also going to need a calculator just in case. And then I always say you need a delicious beverage. Today I've got coffee and I've got water to just help me through the process because it's cozy. If you don't have those right now, get those four things: your budget, your transactions, a calculator, and something delicious to drink. So because I use an app to track all my expenses and transactions, I use a budget spreadsheet like the one that you see here on the screen. The first thing I do once I get my things gathered and sit down in front of my computer is I figure out where I left off. Every transaction that we use our credit card for, I enter onto this spreadsheet tab. And I can scroll up and up and up, and I've actually hidden 904 rows, you can see here. But every transaction on our credit card gets entered onto this spreadsheet for a couple reasons. It helps me get all of our transactions in one place, assign them a budget category, and also lets me know if I have this yes column. Is it in the budget? Like, have I entered that into the budget yet and updated that total for that category, or have I not? Or maybe there's some specific things we need to do with that. Maybe that needs to be transferred from our savings account. For example, we just had our entire first floor of our house painted. If I was to use a credit card for that, I would need to leave a note saying this money needs to be transferred from savings from our sinking fund in order to pay for that expense. So this allows me to make any notes on our specific expenses in one place and allows me to reference back to it if I feel like I need to do that. I'm just going to walk you through this. So I've got the amount spent, where we spent the money at, which budget category it goes into, the month that expense comes out of, like which monthly budget, is it January, February, and then have I marked that in the budget yet? Like, have I gone to this 2021 tab and updated that number in the budget? Once I do that, I put a little Y in that column for yes, it's updated. Until then, I leave that column blank. And so I'm going to look here where I left off, and I'm going to use my app on my wife's phone. And I'm going to do a couple of these just kind of so you can see my thought process, how I do it. But I'm probably going to fast forward this and go and actually do all this stuff. And so you'll kind of see some of that in fast forward maybe, or I might cut a chunk of it out. And once I'm done with it, then I'll go back in, show you how I take it from this tab and enter it actually into the budget. So the unhighlighted ones, you can see that I've got a yes in the budget column. So these have been marked in the budget. But the fact that they are white and not highlighted green means that at the time when I last updated the budget, these were still pending on our credit card. And so I wasn't able to pay them because they're pending. And so I wanted to leave them white to let myself know that. The first thing on my list is going to be Hulu, which is an automatic payment that comes out every month. And our category for that is just Hulu. We have its own category. It's from January, and I'm going to leave the in budget blank because I haven't updated that into the budget. So I'm going to go down to the next row. And sometimes I'm doing this, I went to the next, like in my app, sometimes the expenses are out of order, which is really important for me to pay attention to that. The next one was actually $59.60 on there from all I've already got that entered in there, so I want to skip that one, obviously. So $391, this is super one. This is likely going to be from the food category, but sometimes we buy things at the grocery store that fits into a different category. Maybe we're hanging out with friends, and whatever we bought there is going to come out of like the community budget category. This is why I love keeping receipts and why I started the receipt envelope. $3.99 at Super One. Most likely it's food, but I want to look at my receipt to see what I actually spend that money on. So I can grab it here. It was on French vanilla coffee creamer, which fits into our food budget. So I'm just gonna put a check mark on my receipt to let myself know that I've entered that receipt. I've checked it out, verified. It's gonna go under food for January, not in the budget yet. Next transaction. 127.04. That is Verizon. So that is my phone bill, January. And I believe, so this is an automatic transaction and likely I've already entered this into the budget. So I'm going to hit yes, because again, I know that that's an automatic payment. I don't actually go in and physically pay that. A suggestion that I have is that when you are setting up your budget, one of the best things you can do is set up automatic payments if you know that that money is going to be in your account. Automatic payments is one less thing to do, and it makes your budgeting process easier and faster. I can just know that I have that paid. This one is $5. Discovery Museums. And this one is something, I don't know what Discovery Museums is, but I believe that my wife uses sign up for like a $5 continuing education course. So this is going to be Jenna School. We have a budget category for that. All right, going through $53 UPS or USPS. This one is for my blog. I have to have a PO box for my blog, and so that is that payment. This comes out every 6 months. And so this is where I'm going to enter in actually a note. Instead of just leaving the in budget blank, I'm going to enter in a note that's going to say transfer from blog. I have my own accounts for my blog and website to make sure that I have income to pay some of these expenses. So I know I need to do that, and I'm not going to adjust that box or put a yes there until I've done that. $79.99. This is Spectrum. This is internet, and they just raised our rate by $5. They do this about every year, and it drives me bonkers. This is another automatic payment. I'm very confident I've already entered this in the budget, so I'm going to put yes there. $0.99. This is from Apple. This is for our iCloud. This is another one I know I've already put in the budget, and if I go check my budget, iCloud, yep, I had already entered in there for $3.98. You can also see internet and Hulu and phone. Oh, we paid a lot extra on phone this year because my wife's phone quit working, so we had to get a new one. But you can see there that I left a note. That's another tip that I have, and one other part of my process. When we have extra expenses that are out of the ordinary, like new phone stuff, I'm going to put a little note in there to let us know that. And I'll get into kind of our budget categories when I get to that point of this in a little bit. So I think I'm going to do maybe one more, and I'll fast forward this so you don't have to, again, sit here mind-numbingly listen to me or watch me type in all these transactions. All right, here's another good example. This is 4033. This is Target. And again, sometimes when we go to Target, we put everything on one receipt from multiple budget categories. So I might buy deodorant. We also might buy food. And when we do that, those are two different budget categories. And I want to make sure that when we are doing our budget, I don't lump like household stuff and like hygiene stuff into our food category. We want to keep those things separate. So I'm going to actually grab that receipt from Target, find the one for $40.33. It's right here. This is where organization really helps when I sort these by where I buy stuff from. So I'm going to take the time to go through, and I'm going to figure out where those go. I'm going to do that quickly. Again, I might fast forward through this little part or jump to it as I take the time to go and through this receipt and figure out which budget categories you do this for. A possibly simpler thing for your budget, and this is what we used to do, is to actually run a different transaction for each budget category. So take all the things that fit in food budget category and ring those up, run a transaction, get your receipt, and then everything from your household and like personal hygiene, run those under a different receipt. So then it's really easy to track those things. That's what we used to do. And then recently, because we wanted to get through the lines faster and I started doing tracking receipts, we started putting things all on one receipt, and then I will go through when I do the budget and update those and put those in the correct categories. So I'm going to take a couple minutes to do that, and then I'll jump back on. I'll probably do the rest of the transactions and fast forward through and then jump to when I'm actually inserting these things into our budget. So stick with me while I do that. And again, feel free to fast forward. There should actually be a link down below where you can actually skip to where I'm entering things into the budget and taking these totals and putting them over there. Okay, so now I've got all of our expenses from the last couple weeks updated onto this tab of our budget spreadsheet. And so now my next step is to take everything from this spreadsheet and make sure it's updated into our actual budget. So Hulu is $652, so I'm gonna type in yes here. I'm gonna go over to the budget spreadsheet. I'm going to scroll down and find Hulu. Hulu's already entered in there. I'm going to go back to my Capital One. Food. So this is one where I've got multiple transactions that belong to the same budget category. Where your handy dandy calculator comes in. And I'm just going to do this one time. I'm just going to go through and add all of these up, and then I'm going to take that entire total and update it and add it to my previous total that I already have for groceries and food. We've already bought food this month, so we have a running total, and I'm going to add whatever number I calculate here to that. And hopefully we're under our budget of $350 for the month. So $399. I suppose I can just put a Y in that column because I'm adding this right now. I do not know if you can hear my kid scream singing during her nap right now, but it's cracking me up. All right, so I'm adding up. I have $124.51. All right, I just like to double check to make sure there's not anything goofy that I missed here. All right, and so I've got $124.51. I'm going to scroll down here, find my food category, groceries, plus 213.38 equals $337.89. And so it looks like we're about $13 under budget right now. That gives us a little flexibility this last week of the month. If we need to run to the store and get something, we can do that. All right. And so I've got the food entered in there. I'm going to go back to the top to make sure I'm in my yeses. So miscellaneous Jenna for school. I'm going to, I know right where that is in my budget. This is going to be $5 under education. So Jenna, we'll put under supplies, $5. Boom. It's in there. I should make a note of our budget and how our budget works. And so if you don't have a budget, I do have this exact same budget template as a blank spreadsheet for you. It's $5 from my Etsy shop. You could also get a monthly budget. It's a different spreadsheet designed the same way so you can track your expenses every month against a typical normal month. That one's also $5. So this first column here is norm. It says norm. This is not Norm's budget. This is our normal month, what we would typically spend or what we budget for. So we budget for Jenna with classroom supplies $25 a month. Most of the time, she stays way under that and does not need that much. If you look at some of these other ones, gas, we budget $150 a month. This is an old one that we just haven't updated. We don't drive a lot anymore, so we generally stay way under that one. And we have daycare. Again, this is our normal column of our normal, typical expenses. And you can see some things don't have like a budget amount for because we don't buy it often enough for us to fit it in there. We've actually created some wiggle room in our budget to know that at the end of the month, we're going to have a few $100s extra that we're going to put towards savings of some sort. Right now, we're saving for my wife to be going through grad school and paying cash for that. But other times, we might be able to use some of that buffer money for extra things like buying our bathroom mirror, like some miscellaneous food, like going to Starbucks, or some clothes. We bought some clothes from Sam's Club a couple weeks ago, this shirt actually. And so we have some buffer room in our budget, but most of our expenses, we have a budgeted amount allotted for. For us to be able to know if we're over budget or under budget in a category, we can look at this normal column and see if we're over or under budget. If you're looking right here and seeing that, holy cow, Jamie, this is Jamie and Jenna's personal allowance, like guilt-free money we get every single month. $650. I left a note in here to let myself know that we took part of our stimulus check and put it towards me updating and updating my bike for winter, which is a goal I've had for a long time. And so we used that money, and so this went under Jamie's personal to be able to use for that or whatever else I deemed I wanted to use that money for. That's kind of a budget decision we made together to do that. And actually, it was my wife's idea to give that $600 to me for some of these reasons. And if you have any questions as I'm doing this, you're looking at numbers and wondering why I'm doing what I'm doing, or that any numbers are really skewed off like that 650 there, just drop a comment and ask any questions about budgeting that you have through this process. I should have said that way at the beginning. But if you've got questions, let me know. I want to be able to answer those because budgeting is really personal and different for everybody, and everybody handles things slightly differently. So if you're confused on why I'm doing certain things, I would love to be able to explain that to you, and maybe it'll help you in your own budgeting journey and figuring out what works best for you. All right, I see here that I forgot $529 from food. Again, it's nice to have that. I'm just going to delete this here. That in right now, just so I don't forget it. So I'm gonna go to our groceries and add $521. Sometimes I like to be really fancy and do things without a calculator and test my own mental acuity. Today is not that day. $343.18. Still a little extra room, which is nice. All right, so then next I'm going to do our household. So I've got $21.76 there. I'm going to delete that. I'm just going to scan through. I know I've got some high school stuff. I've got $11.19. So this one, you notice the expense here is $76.52 from Target. We bought a round mirror to hang up in our bathroom because we just got our bathroom repainted. And so we spent $76.50. There's a Target. realized we put it up and it wasn't big enough. So we returned it. And so really this was $11.19 because the rest of that was from the mirror that we returned. Plus 11.19 equals, so I can delete that and say this is going to be in our budget. I don't see anything else from household here. And so I'm going to find the household section and home supplies. You can see I've got some notes in here of things that we got. This was something at Target. I don't know what it was, but it was definitely from household. 32.95. You can see that this is 84.30. You can see that our budget for household is $60, and we've gone over this by $24.30. And we bought some things that we don't typically buy. We don't typically buy things from Pampered Chef. And so this is one thing that I don't love to see when we go over budget, but I also know that we do build a little buffer in there so we can go over budget and it's not going to drastically hurt us as long as we're not doing it in a bunch of categories. And you can see here, food was under budget. So that's going to offset a little bit. And there's other categories where we are going to be under budget. That's going to offset anything that we're over budget on. Also, I want to say, if you go on over budget on a category or two, don't beat yourself up about it. It does happen from time to time. I think anybody who budgets at some point is going to go over budget in a category or two, and that's totally okay. Part of budgeting is making adjustments at the beginning of the month, midway through the month, and end of the month, and even next month. So knowing that we went over budget in household this month, next month, maybe we'll really hone it back in and really only buy the necessities, or we'll be really under budget. Or you saw that our gas bill is way under budget. This is going to offset that. So just because you go over budget doesn't mean your budget is broken. It does not mean you're bad at budgeting. Sometimes that just happens and there's not a lot we can do about it. We just have to be diligent in making adjustments and being cognizant of what we're spending on each budget category every single month. And it's okay to constantly tweak things. We're doing it all the time. All right, back to updating this. Community fund. This is our budget category for when we are spending time with people. It might now be less spending time with people, but maybe we're thinking of some friends and we want to send them a meal or something like that. We have a budget category for that because one of our big values and priorities is spending time with people, spending time with our friends if we're able to. And so we have an entire budget category for that. These ones here, like this was Facebook ads. There's another one up here for my PO box. I'm going to take care of that later. I'm not going to do that right now. I have a whole separate budget for my business and my blog. And so that's going to come out of there and I'll do those transfers separately. All right, gas is $43.76. And feel free if you're like, okay, Jamie, we get it. You take things from here, you put them into the other one, we get it. You don't need to watch the rest of this. Totally fine. Skip forward to the next section. In the description down below, there should be a little jump link for you to skip to the next section where I'm going to kind of show you after all these are entered, my next step is actually going through and just scanning through my budget to make sure I didn't miss anything and do see where I might be over budget or under budget. If you want to skip forward to that section at this point, go ahead. If you find this amazingly fascinating to keep watching, please do that too, because some questions might pop up that you have that going through this I might answer, or you might see how I do a certain thing and it might help you with your own budgeting. Ooh, this one. Family fun is one of our categories. You see that a couple of these I have question marks. We're getting our house painted, and for one of the days this week, the painter was in our kitchen the entire day. So we didn't want to be going into our kitchen to make lunch and dinner. We wanted to stay out of his way and make his job as easy as possible. Plus, we just wanted to stay distant in a different room. So we were able to social distance really well. So on this day, we ate out twice. We got Subway for dinner and Panera for lunch, and I think the day before we got scones from one of our favorite places here in Duluth, which is Great Harvest. And so some of these things were family fun. I put question marks because I wasn't sure, does this come out of family fun or does this come out of like miscellaneous food that we normally don't spend this money eating out, but we kind of did out of necessity on this day. So these ones, I'm going to kind of see what we have in our family fun budget category, and I'll probably take most of this from there and max that one out. And the rest I will probably put in miscellaneous food. I'm actually just going to go and check our family fun category, which is towards the top somewhere. Here it is, family fun, budget 50. We've got 2187. Part of that can go in there. So I'm just going to add it all in there and kind of subtract the difference and put that difference someplace else. All right, so that total of that day, I'm just going to, yes, it came to 55.52, which tells me for sure we're over budget on that. So I'm going to add plus 21.87, that's 77.39, which tells me I'm 27.39 over budget. So under miscellaneous food, I'm going to add in a note there. I'm going to call it paint day because I will know what that means later in there. And so I'm actually going to round this down to 50, and under family fun, I'm going to add 27.39 to it. So that's going to be 52.79. All right, so that's under miscellaneous food. Again, not anything we budget for, but we got a little buffer room into our budget, so I know that we'll be okay doing that. Another miscellaneous food, $9.89 Starbucks. I could probably just add that to the 25 that's already there, but I'm just gonna add it there. All right, Hobby Lobby, this is where we bought that mirror. This is one that isn't a budget category we have. So this entire thing, $84.91, is going to come on of appliances and furnishings. All right, and the last one, London Road Car Wash, comes out of car, $63. And so I'm going to scroll down to our car and transportation. This is not really, I suppose it was an oil change and a car wash. Again, don't normally budget for an oil change just because we don't always have oil changes. But we do have a sinking fund for our car where we pay our car insurance out of. And so that is where that $63 is going to come out of. So once I make that transfer, I'll probably delete that out of there. If you want more on sinking funds, I've made a whole video on that and I'll link to it in the description. I've also got a sinking fund tracker so that we use to track multiple goals that we have, savings goals like our emergency fund, our home improvement fund, Christmas savings amount. So when we get to Christmas, we can just buy the stuff and instead of worrying about having the money for it or going into debt on it. So if you need a sinking fund tracker, a way to track those goals, that's what we use. The link's down below to head over to my Etsy shop. All right, so at this point, I've taken all of the expenses that I've originally written down here. I put them into our actual budget for the month of January. So my next step now is to go through my budget. I'm gonna go to the top and go all the way through this to make sure that I didn't miss anything. And right away, I can see that I've missed income on here. I have not added our income for the second chunk of this month, so I'm going to do that quick. I just paused the video real quick while I jumped into our Wells Fargo account and looked at our income. And this is a reminder too, I don't just use one place to store all of our transactions. We have transactions coming on multiple different places, so we use our credit card like I mentioned in the app to track that. I track things with receipts. There are things that come directly out of our checking accounts, and so I always go through and make sure I look through our checking account to make sure I didn't miss anything. And that's kind of this last step that I am in the process of here. I scan through our budget to make sure I didn't miss anything, and then I'll look through our bank accounts, our savings account, our two checking accounts that we use for most of our transactions, see what transactions might be in there that I've missed that I still need to enter into the budget. So I'm just going to scan through from top to bottom. I've got our income, and looking at this so far, we can see that I've got $2,800, $2,806 left that I'm able to budget in this month. So I know I still have some transactions that I need to account for. Once I've accounted for all the transactions, is extra money that's going to go to our goals like paying for grad school with cash and possibly replenishing our home improvement fund so that we can continue to update some projects around the house now that we've gotten things painted. Every time at the end of the month when there's money left over, my wife and I have a conversation of what are we doing with that money? What's our biggest priority and our biggest goal? I think that's a really important conversation that if you are married or have a significant other, that you have that conversation throughout the month of as you're adjusting your budget and seeing if you might be close to going over budget in a category of how to adjust that. But then at the end of the month, if you do have money left over, what is it going to? Is it going to pay off debt? Is it going to a savings goal? Is it building your emergency fund? So it's important to have that conversation on what to do with that extra money. So I'm going to go through and I can see again right off the bat that I haven't paid our mortgage bill yet. It's the 24th. I got a couple days to do that. I'll do that after this video. We do pay just a little bit extra on our mortgage, only $20. We used to pay $200 extra on our mortgage to pay it off faster until my wife started grad school. Now every dollar that we can, we're usually funneling to pay for grad school with cash. I can see that I've paid all of our general utility type bills. Groceries, we have a little bit of money left there. We've maxed out our personal allowances. My wife gets a baking fund. Our family fund is maxed out. Some of these that you saw earlier as we were going through don't have a budget category, but this is a little extra that we spent that we don't typically spend. Daycare, our daycare check was due 2 days ago, and that's one that I would see in our actual online banking and not in our credit card app because we don't pay our daycare with a credit card. I would love to and earn the extra points, but it just doesn't work. I think I forgot to add gas in here at one point. Let me just double check that. Yes, $43.76. I think I got distracted by something. This is why we double check. So this is $83.76. No doctor or dentist. This is our car insurance. So I've got a private Facebook group called the Get Debt Free Community where close to 100 people right now at the time of this video in there that are working to become debt free, and we're all working together to help each other give tips, strategies, encouragement, ideas to do that. And so I actually posted a question in there of what budgeting questions do you have as I make this video. And one of the questions was, how do you save up for things that you only pay once or twice a year, like property taxes, or another one I was thinking is car insurance. And so in a couple minutes, I'm gonna have a frequently asked questions section. So if you want, you can actually click the link in the description to jump to that section. And that's one of the questions I'm going to look at answering. We've got our car insurance, our health insurance. One of the things that we do every month is we tithe. And so this is 10% of our income. Before I finalize our budget for the month, I'm going to take 10% of our earnings, that was our earnings this month, and tithe on that. We also have a giving section where we give $75 just in practical ways. This month it was a photo book for my mom. We mailed something to somebody. And so that's easy to come out of this category. We can put it in different categories. category, but that's what we decided for that shipping cost. $29 extra there that we can find a way to practically give this month. This is our savings goals that we have. And so you can see grad school is the big chunk here. And hopefully we'll be able to add some more to that as well. So that is kind of all of these are for sure we're going to at least give the budget amount on this side. And then any extra is probably going to go to grad school. I should probably put that in there because that pays for some of my blogging stuff. This is something that is an automatic transfer for our Roth IRAs. So we are going to add that in there. That's already been transferred. And so I just need to budget that in there for our $529 plan. You can see we have a little bit left in our date fund, which is exciting. And we have some left in our community fund and some left in my wife's scrapbooking fund. Our dogs are pretty much maxed out. And I think that's it. So looking at a couple big expenses that we have to do our mortgage and tithe. Those are our two big ones. And that's going to wrap up most of this money in there. And then again, we're going to look at anything that might be maxed out or anything that we have extra money in, like the giving budget category. We can max that out and look at filling up these budget categories that have some money left in them that we still need to spend that money on. So there you have it. That's my overall general budgeting process, beginning to end, what I do when I sit down to update our budget. And I'm going to switch into some frequently asked questions. These are from people in my debt-free Facebook community that I wanted to answer their questions specifically right here on this video. So I'm going to start answering those questions right now. All right, so this first question is from Leslie, and the question is, how do you budget for unplanned or flexible expenses? Maybe at family birthdays and things like that. Are they in the budget? A couple things I have to say about that. So if you find yourself constantly looking at giving birthday presents or wedding shower gifts or things like that, I would highly recommend putting a category in your budget for that. And again, it might not be a budget category that you use all the time every month, but if you set aside money for it, then you have that money available to you. If you don't need it, maybe that money can go towards something else like paying off your debt or to kind of cover that some flex space if you go over in a different budget category. So I would absolutely add a budget category if you find yourself needing it often. And as far as, Leslie, the unplanned or flexible expenses, I think having flexibility in your budget is a huge priority, a huge advantage for you. And so a really great idea that we don't have in our budget, but I know a lot of people that do, is a miscellaneous category. So maybe you budget $50 to $100 a month as miscellaneous for these things that pop up that you forgot about, that you didn't think of, that came up partway through the month, that you have that money budgeted for. And again, if it's budgeted for, means you're already planning to spend it, and so it's there if you need it. And then if you end up not needing it, it can go towards one of your other money goals. Or if you are really intent on spending that money on something, you can talk it through with your partner, significant other. You can decide what else you want to do with that money once you get to the end of the month and realize that you didn't need to spend it from that category. Next question is from Bridget, and Bridget asks, how do you budget for things that happen only once or twice a year? For example, we pay our property taxes twice a year. This is what we do for that. We do that for our car insurance. We pay our car insurance twice a year in May and November, and we wanted to pay that in one lump sum so we could save a little bit extra. I think we save about $100 or $200 a year because we do that. And so what we did is we took, okay, this is a 6-month expense. We divide that by 6 months, and I think ours is $47. So we know that we need to contribute $47 every single month and set aside so that when it gets time that payment is due, we have that money there and it's ready. Just make sure that you know that that money is earmarked for your house and your property taxes or your car insurance or whatever it is. So divide that total number by however many months you need to save for it, and just make sure you set that money aside every month. All right, so this next question is, I've never really budgeted. Where do I start? And my best advice to that is to just start anywhere that feels comfortable for you. How you actually keep your budget is 100% up to you, and you need to find a way that works well for you. One way that works really well for me is keeping everything updated in a spreadsheet like the one you saw here. And if you are sitting here lost and don't have a budget spreadsheet, I do have both an annual budget spreadsheet, exactly like the one you saw there, and a monthly budget spreadsheet, and the links are down in the description. Those are $5 each. That's a really great way to start, and they come with tutorial videos to actually how to set up your budget and how to use those specific spreadsheets. Plus, if you're in the Get Debt Free community, like some of these folks are, you can ask me questions about budgeting, and I'll be doing more videos like this and some live videos in live stream where we can budget in real time together. If you don't know where to start budgeting, you need to have a system to keep track of things, whether that's a spreadsheet like this one or just a pen and paper, a place where you write down all your expenses and know what they are. Budgeting at its core is knowing tracking your income, tracking your expenses, and tracking your savings. If you're tracking those 3 things and have a really good idea of those things and are consistent in paying those things every single month, that's budgeting at its core in whatever way works for you. So if that's a spreadsheet or paper paper and pen, that's where I would start. And then wherever you're going to keep track of that, the important thing is to do it consistently every month. I do this at least twice a month, sometimes 3 or 4 times a month. And so I can get in a rhythm and routine. And just because you forget a week or two, don't give up. That's another big part of it. Keep going, keep working on it. And the more you work with your budget and your numbers, the more you're going to develop a system that works for you, because my system might not be the best system for you. You might find something else that works, but you're going to find that by doing the work and sitting down to do it every week or every 2 weeks. And just know that it takes time to develop that system. It actually takes time to do this budget. I think this video that I'm making is overall, it's over an hour, or I sat down here on a Sunday afternoon to do this, especially at the end of the month when I'm finalizing our budget. But that's an hour well spent to know where my money's going, how much I'm contributing to my savings goals, and if I can make more progress on paying off my debts for us saving for grad school by budgeting consistently and sticking with my budget, even if it's frustrating or even if I forget. All of that to say, if you don't know where to start on your budget, you need a budget, whether that's a spreadsheet or on paper, and then you need to set aside time every single week or every 2 weeks to make sure you're tracking your income, your expenses, and your savings goals. Now that you kind of see my budget process and how I update my budget, one of the next videos I would recommend watching is how to save money using cash envelopes. I'll have a card for it, and there should be a little thing popping up here in just a second. I think it's over the shoulder of how to start using cash envelope system to save money. This is something that we use when we were paying off debt so that we weren't tempted to use a credit card. We stayed under budget a lot better. So using cash envelopes is a really great tool, and will actually make budgeting a lot easier. This process I just went through, because you'll be paying cash for a lot of your expenses. So go watch that video. Thanks for sticking with me through this. I know this was a longer video. If you got some value out of this, hit the subscribe button, ding the little bell so you get notified every time I make a new video. Let's keep working to learn how to budget, save money, and get debt free. I'll have a new video coming to you soon. Thanks for watching.